everybody. So y'all know I like to do shout outs, right? That's just not going to happen today. I'm going to read you all a story that I found in the Daily Mail. And yes, this person seems like a person that comes from what's called the ghetto, what we call the hood. And try and understand, and I'm going to let you form your opinions, but I'm going to read it to you. And I'm going to explain why I gave this video the title that I did. I was about to say entitled. That's a different thing. I titled the video what it was titled. I need to give you a trigger warning that 2 photos that I'm going to show you from the Daily Mail are true. And this is how these 3 children were living at the time that the authorities found them. I'll say presumably February 2025. I'm gonna read the quick story, but I'm giving you a warning that you may want to have dinner before you look at these photos, because we need to address it. Okay, without further ado, we're gonna take a trip to Michigan, okay? And here's the story from the Daily Mail, which will be linked in the bottom. A Michigan mother has been charged after her 3 children were found abandoned in horrific conditions for years while she kept up her glamorous lifestyle. Kelly Bryant, 34, is facing 3 counts of first-degree child abuse and 3 counts of welfare fraud, according to WDIV. In February, her children, a boy aged 15 and 2 girls aged 13 and 12, were found to have been staying in a feces and trash-covered home in Pontiac, Michigan, of course. Police said at a hearing on Friday that because the house was so filthy, they were advised to wear hazmat suits and expected to find a dead body due to the smell, reported WXYZ. The most notable observation was what appeared to be feces covering their clothing and their hair, Detective John Brish said. I'd never smelt a home that smelled that bad without a decomposing body present. Brish testified that he was stunned when Bryant came to the police station to be interviewed, looking drastically different from her kids. Her appearance was the most surprising. Her hair was done. She was wearing what appeared to be clean, I would say clean clothes, because I think I missed something, and had long fake nails, he said. The detective told the court that Bryant admitted to hurting her children and repeatedly asked how she could help herself throughout the interview. She knew that her actions were selfish. That's her wording, and that it made her children sick, and that she had ultimately sacrificed her children for her own purposes, Brish said. I would speak on the severity of the situation and my concerns for the children and their path to recovery and moving forward, and typically her response would be, is there anything I can do to help myself? Police came to do a wellness check after the landlord became concerned that he hadn't heard from their mother since December, and the rent was last paid in October. Upon arrival, deputies discovered the shocking conditions the children had been left in after they were abandoned in 2021. Again, they didn't catch her to February. Now, y'all read what I said. They had been abandoned in 2021. Trash was piled as high as 4 feet in some rooms. Mold and human waste was found throughout, with the toilet overflowing and feces in the bathtub, the sheriff's office said. The boy told them he and his sisters lived alone after being abandoned, and they survived on prepared food dropped off by their mother or a stranger on the front porch each week. No personal hygiene items or toilet paper were provided to the kids, and they also appeared to be unaware of how to use such items or know how to flush a toilet. An investigator for the prosecutor's office testified that the children had their mother in their phone's contact labeled as world's greatest mom. Bryant allegedly had her children's contact information on her phone labeled as my oldest, kid 1, and kid 2. Oakland County Sheriff's Deputy Quincy Curtis said the boy had extremely long toenails and had trouble walking straight. They were frightened, Curtis said. I didn't think it was a suitable place for anyone to be living. Bryant previously pleaded not guilty to the child abuse charges, and a judge ruled on Friday that the case can go to trial. She is being held on a $50,000 bond at the Oakland County Jail. Her defense team argued because the children weren't mentally or physically harmed, it was not a child abuse case. Those children were articulate. They were answering questions. They were asking for clarification, said Cecilia Quinodongo Bonso, Bryant's defense attorney. It's getting too easy to say that these women have options because they already know that. And I took the age of 34 and minused it by, I would say, 15, and she had that first one at the age of 19 years old. Now, we got some young mothers here, okay? Some of you had children very young. You are very loving and caring mother. So please don't take this out of context about what I'm going to say. Some women aren't single mothers by choice, meaning that their spouse could have passed away while serving their country. They could have passed away in a car accident or a bad accident, or even for a bad choice they've made and left their family behind. Either way, some kind of way, there was no father for these children. That's the first thing that stood out, and always the first thing. Who is or are the father or fathers of these children? Defense attorney gotta be kidding me. Articulate doesn't equal they didn't have a right to live in clean quarters. See, this is the problem with people with hood mentality. Look at what I'm wearing. Look at what I have. Look what vessel I'm on. Look how good I look. Look how fresh I'm is. I'm trying to figure out, did these kids have aunts, uncles, cousins, teachers who had noticed they had disappeared all these years? Were they going to school wearing filthy clothes, or did the teachers just assume they moved out of town? I mean, a lot of people dropped the ball here. Let's not play stupid, right? Because we can state the obvious. There's a whole lot of women out here putting weave in their hair. We all had a cousin, I'm not going to say mine's name, that loved to dress fly, had the best clothes, would go to the malls and buy the nicest jackets, shoes, got their hair done, that darn manicure and pedicure be on point, because it's mostly the women doing this, because 70% of our children are being raised by women. And the kids are wearing clothes that look like they're going to fall off. That you couldn't buy that baby a belt. You couldn't get them a new pair of sneakers. With the boys, you resent them because they are the image of a man you slept with that you regret being pregnant by. The girls you resent because as you get older, she's a younger, more buxom version of you. And tell me I'm lying. So in this case, let's keep both the boy and the girls isolated from the world. That way they'll never become my competition. This is why I had to go out, live my luxury life and pretend to care about my children. It's obvious that this played a role. This woman lost a lot of her youth, and so she saw those children as a burden. And you know that by reading about the article I just read, because I read the whole article. There are pieces of it that was missing, of course. I apologize. Because I think they were saying she came in with her hair immaculate, fresh clothes, and a nice manicure, while they suffered. I didn't put her picture up because I wanted to deal with the conditions that she put these kids in. Let's be honest about what happens when you become a parent and you didn't want to, and you don't take advantage of the solutions you have. Whether that, and I'm not here to judge anyone, whether that be abortion, whether that be adoption, whether that be give it to the other side of the family or your side of the family, whether that be put them in the foster system. I'm not saying that whole list is ideal, but anything, I won't, outside of abortion, let me go on and state my position on that. Anything else would have been tolerant to dealing with this. Let's go back to my title. Why didn't she do it? Because it's easier when you feel like you've carried a life inside of you to feel like that life is a possession to you, not something you can mold, grow, nurture, and grow into a well-rounded human being. They spoke articulate, of course they did. She had the power to brainwash them. If she disappeared in 2021, came back in 2025, that 15-year-old had to have been between 10 to 11 years old. Which means up to that point, he probably thought he had a loving mother. And really, how long did this abuse go? She could not let those children go because they were objects to her and not subjects. And once you have placed a Stockholm syndrome on a child, because I can remember kids growing up in the hood being abused and you found out they just ran away from home when they get old enough. Because these kids were old enough to just walk out the door and leave, but didn't. Which lends to the fact that there could be some Asperger's there, some autism, something, for them to just stay put and live in a house with an overflowing toilet and they did not know how to flush a toilet. I knew how to flush a toilet at 4 years old on my own. 1984, I can remember it. I could bathe myself by the time I was 4 years old. 1984. Yes, this isn't about me, but I'm giving you a synopsis of something. Okay? The reason that some of these women do not give up these children is because by giving birth to them, they think they are a possession. They treat their kid like the Birkin bag they bought. They treat them like that weave those extensions they put in their hair. Because that is a part of them. They see that child as an object that can be used for some type of control, even if, despite, I'm not going to say even though I hate that, despite the fact that they know they don't want them. Because when the detectives asks her, what can we all do to move forward to make these kids' life better? And you say, I'm worried about what I need to do for me. You're advertising they were objects to you and not subjects. Because if they were subjects and you cared about their subjectivity as people who needed nurturing, who needed a parent, who needed love, you would have told some other adult long time ago, I really don't want these kids. Dropping them off food once a week, like they were a burden to you while you were living a high flash lifestyle. We all know this stuff happens in the hood. And everybody talks about what the person coulda, shoulda, and would have done. Let's deal with the psychology, okay, of objectivity versus subjectivity. See, you got someone who kept those kids because they were objects for her to control. There's a lot of ambiguity here. Who did she need to keep those kids from? Did she need to keep them from their fathers? We don't know. Did she need to keep them from her family who may have wanted to take them? We don't know. Did she need to keep them from the system because she thought she wasn't going to financially benefit? We don't know. And what landlord in their right mind allows somebody to not pay rent since 2021 and wait till 2025 to say something? That just seemed, to me, that even seems sus. It's easiest for us to say these kids were let down. It's easiest for us to say the fathers are not getting their fair say, assuming that they may be still amongst the living with us. Kids from certain backgrounds are treated as objects, and not subjects. The subjective mother would have been in that home. It would have been clean. Her children would have been fed and off to school. They would have been loved. But we know that that didn't happen. I'm tired of hearing the crap about mental illness when a detective is asking you how you can move forward as a better mother, and you're sitting there, your first thing when you go to that police station, what can I do to save me? Saving you was over the second that first one was born. So why would you keep sitting and laying and having them and knowing that you didn't want them? And again, we'll all ask that question because people like this have to have children as an object instead of a subject. She needed to keep those kids locked away for as long as she needed to for her own selfish reasons, which we know will come out sooner or later. People like this who keep children keep them as objects and not as subjects. That's the hardest conversation for people in the hood to have, because I've met people growing up like this that did not want kids and had them anyway. Then they end up stressed out, mad all the time. It's like, you knew when you were younger you didn't want kids. Why you put yourself in this? And that's the only explanation I have. They needed someone of a younger age of whom they can objectify to feel better about their meager existence. And how odd that when you were online, you were portraying yourself as somebody with a lot of money and trying to pretend like they didn't exist, but then having yourself or other people drop food on the porch for them and walk away. They were objects to you, ma'am, not subjects. And in order for us to heal the hood, we got to have this psychological conversation about why it's not okay to use children like this. If the pictures offended you, I apologize in advance, but it's the only way we gonna fix it. God bless these babies.